Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio. We're your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show, new topic, a very interesting topic. A topic that, might, touch everyone that's watching and listening today, because we hear a lot of stuff going on with health, and specifically when it comes to cancer. It's a global pandemic. It's something that is existing. People are afflicted no matter where they are, old, young, male, female, it doesn't matter, all over the parts of the world. This is something that has been ongoing, and this century has shown, has seen a lot of it. And I personally, family-wise, I've been afflicted myself. I've known people who have been afflicted with it. We've lost people to it. And, there's always discussion about the cure and what's going on out there, and solutions and technology innovation. So today's show is very unique because I have with me someone who founded, and he's the co-founder or founder and CEO of a company that's really technology driven, but in the search and the research in the cancer cure and different things. And he'll talk to us a little bit more about all that, as we bring him on. So without any further ado, I have with me Navid Alipour, and he is the founder and CEO of AI Med Global. Navid, welcome to the show.
Hurricane, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Well, listen, I am actually all ears today. I want to hear a lot more about what the work you do, and I mean, you got some technical terms that and names out there, and when we think AI, artificial intelligence, it's just a lot of things, and I think that's the future. No matter what, every aspect of life is kind of driving towards that, right? That's where we think the world is going to be, and AI is going to be part of a lot of things we do. But so before we get into the tech part of it, I mean, cancer is something that's familiar to everyone. Yep. We see ads, we have marathons, we have different things, programs. There's months dedicated to it. There's so many things going on, and it's worldwide, and it is real. It's happening all around us, and it takes lives, and it's been a challenge. A lot of people have been doing a lot of work into it in the medicine world and the pharma world. I mean, there's so much research that's going on, and really they're working on it. I mean, but yeah. To date, no cure yet. Or at least we don't know of a cure that is. I mean, I just read something recently that there is some drug that they tested in some mice, and I think 15% of them, had a complete, I don't know if you read some of the article recently, but so you get those little sparks out there, and you're like, get excited. Yeah, finally something, right? But then again, we don't know that in human trials and things like that. That's way far from here. And then, we hear solutions and tech, in innovation, such as your company. It's like, well, we want to hear about it. And I think today you get an opportunity to share with us about the company, the actual story behind the company and your background, as well as, what the work that you guys do. So let's start with that, Navid. What's the background and how you get to start, AI Med Global?
Yeah, no, so it's a great question. And I'd like to say that it was all masterfully planned and every step was on purpose, but life doesn't work that way, right? So there's a bit of serendipity, a bit of luck being having an opportunity and taking advantage of it. So I come from a law and business background, and my father's a cardiologist, retired. Both my brothers are doctors. My wife's side of the family, lots of doctors, and so I went the law and business route. However, healthcare has always been my passion, and that convergence of healthcare and technology that's happening right now was really, kind of my calling and what gets me up every day. And so we started a small venture fund here in San Diego about 10 years ago and we were investing in existing software companies. And through that process, we met the scientists, literally rocket scientists out of UC San Diego, which is really one of the epicenters of artificial intelligence, one of the birthplaces of it. And they'd done work for NASA before, and it was with them that we started the first company within the AI Med Global umbrella called CureMetrix. And so CureMetrix is the one where we detect breast cancer and heart disease in women from the same mammogram. So it's a 2-for-1, which no one else does. So, and I can delve into that, of course, as we get into the conversation, but those are the 2 top causes of mortality in the world, cancer and heart disease. And so if we're going to live longer, we have to hit those 2 head on, right? And then we started CureMatch, the other company under the AI Med Global umbrella, because my business partner, a gentleman by the name of Blaise Barlet, a French gentleman who came here in his young 20s, fantastic, a friend, like a brother to me. And, he had a big success in the software world of the early 2000s, and was investing his own capital in startups, which is how we met. And he got diagnosed with cancer. And from that process, we met Dr. Kurzrock. For your listeners, that's Kurzrock. If you look her up, you'll find a ton of content on her, one of the top oncologists in the world. So I'm happy to say that my business partner is cancer-free, which is amazing with, where he was at initially. And it's because of combination therapies and Dr. Kurzrock being one of the trailblazers. When we met her at at Moore's Cancer Center, she'd come here from MD Anderson. We said, this is amazing what you're doing. Have you thought of starting a company so it's not just VIPs that have access to you that get this care, but this can be something we build, a technology that can touch people all over the world? Because cancer doesn't know borders or boundaries, neither do we. And so that was the genesis of starting CureMatch, which recommends the best combination of drugs for each patient's specific cancer. And so I'm happy to get into that further as well. But again, under the premise that if we're going to live longer, and if modern medicine is truly going to advance more in the next 10 years than the last 50 years combined, which that's the consensus, then we have to do a better job at detecting earlier and better, treating as fast as possible earlier and better with the best treatments, and then monitoring, of course. Great technologies out there, whether it's go in for your mammogram, do your blood work, get a Cologuard for colon cancer, and other tools and technologies, including the Apple Watch. By the way, I know several people that because of notifications of irregular heartbeats, for example, went to their doctors and caught a situation that could have been life-threatening, right? So that's the monitoring. So we focus on the detect and treat right now at AI Med Global with CureMetrix and CureMatch.
Navid, thank you so much for that overall brief on the company and the start of the company. And first of all, congrats on doing it and really taking it to the next level, because I would go back to one item, which is hopefully preventative stuff, but unfortunately sometimes that is too late. I mean, people are just the way we live today, there is a very high chance that we will ingest things that may actually affect us, whether inhale stuff from the air or touch things, and we use so many chemicals and things like that in this environment that we have, and therefore even our food, there's a lot of processed food and things like that. So we have a lot of potential reasons why our bodies are reacting and certainly becoming cancerous, but at the same time, that's a whole different topic, and we to discuss in terms of like what can we do in measures before to even prevent somebody's body to actually even become in a position where it's available to the cancer cells, and then therefore now it's vulnerable. But we'll hold that discussion for a different topic and a different guest, hopefully an oncologist to come on and talk to us about it. But really, I love what you did in terms of like the preventative part of it is really one, but really early detection is key. Anything that you can detect 100%. Up front it's a potential of, like, if it's still early on, and that's a known fact, whether it's prostate. I mean, for example, guys, it's prostate. For women, is breast cancer, and those are like, even colon guard. You mentioned colon guard, like, colon cancer, and so those are like some things that you can do on a regular basis. There are different technologies and things. I mean, traditionally, people had cures. I mean, not cures, but they get treatment, or they have a diagnosis, and now they go treatment, and the common treatments are always, before it's chemo, and there's radiation therapy now, and now we have a lot more stuff, and hopefully, with the way you actually are going through, and we're going to dive into the details of how you do your work, because I think it's got genetics going on there and everything. I love your little helix in the back. Yeah. So I love that. But the fact of the matter, this is an important piece, right? And I love what you said about, cancer as one, and heart disease. And to you summarize it, I mean, well, I mean, those are like the culprits of, the majority of disease in the sense that, yeah, I mean, when you add those two, I mean, heart disease, there's so many reasons why it happens. Again, talking about diet, almost similar stuff, and it's one or the other. And then now you have these two that we live by. I mean, everybody is worried about those things, and it's just happening to these days. It's happening more and more and more. I mean, you hear about it everywhere. I mean, everybody's worried about it. And so that's the part. Now you created, first you went from, I love your background too, like the business, and therefore you're always thinking business ventures and things. But you've been surrounded with medicine all around, so therefore you were able to actually match those two elements, which they jive well, and you did, and then you started the concept, and then you've tacked on with one of the best oncologists in the world, and then that's the other thing. Now you have someone that actually can really do the research and work, and you guys can support that. And really, the objective is to really bring people closer to a healthier lifestyle. Hopefully, even eliminate some of these cancers, as quickly as they detected. Yes. But now let's talk about that process, right? So you mentioned something about a mammogram. Now we all know what mammograms are. I mean, you basically get your early detection for your breast cancer. But I love the idea that it's a dual, mammogram concept where you can detect both, which I have not heard of that before, and I don't think a lot of people have.
No, we're definitely blazing the trail there.
Well, listen, innovation is key, right? And you have to be the next stage, and it is genius to actually combine those things. I mean, to your point, I mean, they're all chest-based, right? So why not two birds with a stone, right?
Exactly, and so something to touch on real quick is you brought up that obviously preventing the cancer is the best, right? So yes, we can exercise and eat better and avoid environmental pollution as much as possible, but then there's just factors we don't control, right? And so I'm sure I know people that are in their 30s. Even I know people that are vegetarian, they're skinny, they exercise, they don't smoke, they don't drink that much, and they get breast cancer, right? And in their 30s, right? And so there's a genetic element that you just can't control. And we all know people that are obese and 90 years old and are fat and happy, right? It's they're blessed by the gods by good genes, right? Now, the best thing, of course, is to do all the right things. But even if you do, you can get cancer. And with breast cancer, it's common. We all know now, right? It's without question. If you can detect it in stage 1 or 2, the odds of survival are significantly higher than if it's stage 3 or 4. So that's why it's so important that women of a certain age, especially if they have family history, go in on a regular basis annually for that mammogram. Now, it's not comfortable. From what I've heard, of course, as men, we don't get mammograms. But from what it's not a comfortable procedure, and as it is, about half of women who should be getting them don't, because they're not afraid of it. They don't have the family history. It's not comfortable, and so they avoid it or delay it. That said, we think we can drive more women to do this, because we could say not only will you get checked for breast cancer, but for early signs of heart disease. Now, how do we do that? In that mammogram, we also detect what's called microcalcifications in the arteries and capillaries of the breast tissue. Now, we all, men and women, build up calcification in the arteries as we get older, and it happens much faster. For example, folks from the Indian subcontinent tend to have higher calcification rates. And so they need to be really mindful of this, even if they're vegetarian, right? And so that's where if you can detect that calcification from the mammogram and score it, that's early onsets of heart disease. And so that's what we can also do. It's a 2-for-1, no extra radiation, no extra discomfort. You're already in there getting the mammogram, get your breast arterial calcification score as well. And so with that, it then drives the patient to see a cardiologist, get the EKG, get the stress test, get on statins. Hopefully no surgery or other procedures are needed if you get it early enough, or at least you delay those. But getting on a statin, and of course, the best thing is you don't need any medication, but the statin for man or women reduces the risk of a cardiac event by 50 to 60%. So it's a big deal. So if you can detect in a woman who's, let's say, 40 years old, she's skinny, she might not be a triathlete, but she exercises, she's in good shape relatively, she eats well, doesn't have heart disease in the family that she knows of, but goes in for that mammogram and calcification is detected. Now she goes to a cardiologist, she gets on medication, she eats that much better, and so she's aware and she can be proactive, so that she doesn't drop dead from a heart attack at the age of 49 or 52 or whatever it is. But I say 49 because there was a lady in the news recently, just not too long ago, that died of a heart attack at 49, and I think she was in the public eye, author or some sort, and so it happens. And with heart disease, and I'll hit pause after this to of course address any other questions on this. It's called the silent killer amongst women. 65% die on that first heart attack completely asymptomatic. So us men, we tend to have chest pain, shortness of breath. You go to the doctor, they do the appropriate tests and tell you to eat better and exercise and get you on that statin, hopefully, right? We have those symptoms. Women don't have the same symptoms. So a woman might be fatigued, and that is actually a sign of heart disease or a heart attack for women, but the doctor doesn't pick up on that, right? And so that's where it's called the silent killer, in that the first heart attack for 65% of women is the last heart attack. And so we are 100% on the CureMetrix side of the business focused on women's health and breast cancer and heart disease detection at the top of the list in regards to prolonging lives and saving lives of women.
Thank you, Navid. Well, so you mentioned a couple of key elements. One is the genetics part, right? You said that you can be skinny, you can be healthy habits, but if your genetics are prompt to, some sort of a disease, it's in your family genes. I mean, you might still be able to get a cancer cell, right?
Sure.
And therefore, or even heart disease. And actually, some families is rampant, and again, like I said, I've experienced it. My ex-wife, she was young, and she passed, with breast cancer after 3 years of suffering.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's it's life, right? And we understand. That's why this is important. I mean, a lot of people out there, you'll be surprised that people young age, or they you don't see it, you don't even think it's ever going to happen until it happens, and it's so fast. I mean, that's the other thing. That thing is so fast, and depends on your body, your immune system, whatever. It can just destroy you quickly, and then before you know it, someone is no longer here. Right. But I love what you guys you focus. Now, I'm assuming, as you said, CureMetrix is purely 100% women, preventative, and detection, and cure, solutions that you're working on. So that's important. And then similarly with heart disease, I love the statistic and the way you mentioned it, because I don't think we're aware of that. I mean, we hear that, it's a 50-50 shot. We hear different statistics, but really undetected and no signs or nothing. It's just like you drop and you collapse and it's over. That's something that is new to at least in my news. Personally, I have not heard that. And I think for some audiences right now, it's probably going to be like, whoa. And it is, crazy to hear that, like, you're talking women, that could be just because we always think that the men are the ones who are actually crazy, and they do all kind of crazy stuff, and they
right.
over exercise their heart and whatever, and then they're the ones who have problems. But you don't hear that on the women's side, which is unheard of. But this is all new, and I think it's important to share that value with the audience and the public, because listen, we all have women in our lives, and we all love them, and we would love them to stay as healthy as possible, and and never face any of those dilemmas, right? So,
absolutely. If I could interrupt and add one thing
sure.
for the men,
Yeah.
now that's not with our technology for mammograms. Of course, it's not for men, but if I can if I could save one life or have one person go do this and benefit from it, it's worth taking some time on this. So you and I as men can go to an imaging center and get a calcification score from a CT scan, right? Like you lie in the machine, it goes over you. There is radiation. It's not something you want to do every year, but I encourage men, especially if they're over the age of 45, to go do that. It used to be $1,000 and now it's $100 out of pocket, I think. And so I did this myself. And I know others that have done it because, they had a loved one close to them and, something happened. But it's important to get that calcification score because it's one facet of knowing if you have it or not. So you could have your EKG could be fine, your stress test could be fine, but you could have calcification. So if you have that, then you can get on statins that much earlier. You can exercise and eat better that much earlier. So I do encourage men to look into this and talk to their primary care provider and doctor as well.
No, thank you for adding that. And I would add something to that as well, is that, I know we talked about, breast cancer, and it's predominantly known to be a women's, problem, but there is a percentage apparently of men that actually can also have breast cancer, which is not really common. Yeah. So I think, and just because that's something that sometimes we don't think about as men, but it is out there. There are cases where it has been detected and people do, develop similar cells. It's different dynamics, but it still happens.
It's still, and not to make light of someone who's obese as a man, but someone once asked me, can a man get a mammogram? Well, yeah, if they're obese and their breast tissue is large enough, yeah, but obviously it's such a small percentage of men that get breast cancer.
Listen, considering the facts today, if maybe not every year, but maybe, every now and then, someone can do that. Maybe it becomes part of the preventive, measure for all, health, care. And hopefully that becomes one of your annual or every other, like in men, we do prostate every year, right? So this could be something you do maybe every 3-4 years, right? Maybe that's something new to introduce, right, in the healthcare. But at least, we can prevent, some of these things, and early detection is the key, right? And I love what you said about, there's one thing I wanted to actually comment on is you were so right about, the mammograms. And I have women in my family, and I know how dreadful when you actually have to talk about mammogram sessions, and it's painful and they have to go, and it's not simple. I take care of my mom, for example, and when she does hers, I know it's difficult, and sometimes she needs the assistance, and people out there, they help her, but it is painful, and she's always complaining. So it is, and I don't think there is anything that technology has made so far. I think that new machines are a little less, difficult to use, but I don't know, that compression is there.
No, look, I heard it saying that I liked, I forgot who to give credit to for it, but they said aging is for the brave, right? And you age, no one wants to go do blood work or get a colonoscopy or do a mammogram, but you do it if you want to live longer, right? And there's no way around it. I hate needles, but you got to do it to detect earlier.
Listen, off the topic, I just literally had 5 days of a kidney stone, and that was not a fun week. This last week was bad for me. I was literally I just finally I'm getting back into my swing of things, but it was bad. So I can tell you, as you age, a lot of stuff is becoming more difficult, and you have to deal with all the stuff, and it's not simple. You're right, needles, this, that, the other, testing. You got to do all stuff. You have to maintain. That's the other thing. It's the fact that we have to maintain. I think we all get lazy and we say, okay, it's not happening. It's okay.
But it builds up. It's little by little, every decision, every day, whether you don't sleep enough or you have that extra slice of pizza or you don't, right? It all adds up. And by the way, advice is easier given than taken. I got a couple of LBs I need to lose myself. but we know the effect.
And you're right. I think everybody knows, watching right now, listening. We all know. We either play ignorant, or the ignorance piece. Like, I don't want to hear about it. It's all good, and denial. and or we really like so hardcore and we go crazy about it, right? But at the end of the day, we all make those calls.
We do, and you know that's where to tie it into the CureMatch side for cancer. CureMatch is not just for women; it's pan cancer, as the oncologists say. Any man, woman, or child. Unfortunately, children get cancer too. Yep. And so, and you could exercise and eat great and all that stuff, and you could still get cancer. And so, what we developed, as a technology platform to take to the world, that was again Dr. Kurzrock and her brainchild, so to speak. Is that if a doctor wants to recommend a 3-drug combination for a cancer patient, there's literally more than 4.5 million combinations. So it's beyond human cognition to process that. And so that's what we do at CureMatch. Now, cancer is like a snowflake. No two snowflakes, as we're about to get a blizzard here in the US, right? They say it's going to be the coldest Christmas in 40 years, if I recall. But no two snowflakes ever look the same. And no two cancers ever look the same, right? So we tend to, in our lexicon, we identify cancer by the part of the body it's found in, or breast cancer, stomach cancer, liver, brain, lung. But cancer really, increasingly, especially by the oncologists, is identified by the molecular makeup of it. So right now, cancer patients, gets diagnosed. The biopsy of that cancer tumor is sent to a lab that does what's called NGS, next generation sequencing. And to the layperson, I say that's like the 23andMe or the Ancestry.com of that specific patient's cancer. And that specific patient's cancer is like no one else's cancer in the world. And it never will be, right? Like a snowflake. No two are the same. And so what we ingest that report that comes from these labs. And these labs use the hardware comes from big companies, public companies like Illumina or Thermo Fisher, and there's other private companies that are, bringing some competition there. Mm-hmm. But the labs, and again, the labs, some of them are public, like Guardant or Exact Sciences or Foundation Medicine, which is owned by Roche, the big pharma company, and other ones are private. And a lot of community hospitals are setting up their own labs because, by the way, cancer is a business too, and these hospitals want to maintain that revenue stream, so they're developing their own labs to do sequencing on site. And so as they do that, the good thing is the price is going down, right? The price of sequencing is going down, and that's our input. We don't have a lab. We're 100% digital. We don't want to be a lab. There's others do that. They produce the 31-page report, the PDF. That's our input. We take that, and then in our database that we're always curating with new research that our clinical team does, and as new drugs are FDA cleared, we add it to the database. The algorithm, the AI algorithm, will match and say, based on this patient's specific cancer, the molecular profile from the next generation sequencing, and all the drugs available, here are the combinations of 3-drug, 2-drug, 1-drug combos that will respond the best. The patient will respond the best to. And what this is then driving for is better, as the oncologists say, PFS and OS, which stands for progression-free survival or overall survival. I mean, living longer, right? And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make cancer not a death sentence, but like diabetes and HIV, which used to be death sentences, but people now live with for decades and decades and live much longer. And so ultimately, of course, the goal is to be cancer-free, but just like be cured of HIV or diabetes. Of course, it doesn't happen like that, but you can live much, much longer if you can treat it with the best drugs that will have the best response for that patient.
Well, thank you. And I love now it's a lot easier to hear cure match. I mean, you really customize the actual cure to the actual cancer itself, and your unique, sequence, as you said. And you're right. I mean, it's when you go to DNA and you get into that level, it's like everybody's got their own identity. And so everything, including the disease, happens to be unique in its own.
Cancer is unique. Every cancer is unique. No two will ever look the same. And one topic on artificial intelligence I'll touch on, AI is not going to replace the doctor, right? But the doctor using AI will replace the doctors that are not. And so it's a tool, right? It's a tool to empower doctors to take better care of their patients, especially if we have a shortage of doctors, right, at a global level. So to allow the doctors to be able to see more patients and care for more patients. But what's also important to note, on the diagnostic side for CureMetrix, if you said, Navid, here's 10 million more mammograms, do you want it? Of course, we train the algorithms. The more data, the better, right? Mm-hmm. At some point, though, that's machine learning. You say, here's a dog, here's a cat, it trains it. Here's breast cancer, or here's a normal breast tissue, here's breast cancer, and you train it. At some point, it's a diminishing rate of return. Once you're 96, 97, 98, 99% accurate, how much better are you going to get? CureMatch, on the other hand, is not machine learning, because to train an algorithm, and as much as folks like Elon Musk talk about AI and the robots taking over the world, we're nowhere near that yet. You still have to train the algorithm to do what you want, and need that human intelligence with the artificial intelligence in many cases. And with cancer not being the same for any two people, you can't use machine learning, because the whole premise of machine learning is give it the same exact thing and teach it to detect it. But if no two are the same, you can't use machine learning.
It keeps changing, yeah.
Exactly. So what we use is called KRR-AI, Knowledge Representation and Reasoning AI, which is really the same premise behind GPS technology, right? Mm-hmm. If you and I were both in New York, or you were here in San Diego, where I am right now, and we both wanted to get to the airport and mapped how to get there 1 second after each other, we don't get the exact same results, because traffic patterns are always changing. And so that's where that knowledge representation reasoning built in the system will say, Navid, this is the best path for you, and Hurricane, this is the best path for you. And so it's I like my analogy. So that's kind of the one that I think resonates well with people, to say it's really built in the system, that knowledge representation reasoning of our team and the database, and also gives us our competitive advantage, because you can't just reinvent that and throw money at it to catch up, right? It's similar to if I ask you if you use Google for search or Microsoft Bing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to guess you say Google. Now, Microsoft has all the money in the world. They could throw to their Bing product. It's likely never going to catch up to Google search, just because of the knowledge, representation, and reasoning built into Google gives it that competitive advantage.
Thank you, Navid. And by the way, I appreciate the analogy, and also it's important what you said. I mean, because AI is still new to a lot of us, right? It's like something of the future. It is here, but it's still something that we've perceived that it's way far away. And you're right, we're not at the level where we have Cybernet. Skynet is taking over.
Skynet, right?
Skynet is taking over. But the fact of the matter is, you're right. I mean, you have doctors; they're smart people and they do the work. But if you have so many combinations of potential, there's only so much they can do, in their mind, like physically. They need, just like calculating, right? I mean, you can calculate a certain amount of numbers, but eventually it gets too big. The algorithms are going to create a little bit more of a better,
that's a great example, Hurricane, and it's like Excel, right? Excel didn't replace CPAs and accountants. If anything, there's more CPAs than accountants, but it's a tool they use to, do their job better.
Well, again, and the data that's in it, it constantly, upgraded, to the next level. So it has all the input that it can actually smartly, deduct, the information and actually give the best potential outcome for that particular person. Exactly. And that's very important. So I love the concept. I mean, it's really customized, treatment here. I mean, you're really taking one's, DNA and identifying what that problem is, and then taking what's the best, and to your point, like, that's the other thing. I mean, if hearing this show today, people are probably like, well, if that's the case, why are people being treated the same way across the board? I mean, you go to a regular hospital, you get the same chemo, you get the same radiation therapy, yet, we are in a cutting edge mode here with a whole different level of, DNA, helix, ancestry type of level, of discovery here. And you can actually cater and customize the tools that can help you kind of face that dilemma and resolve some of it, and, to your point, survive or even, live longer without any problem.
You just brought up two great points, if I could touch on. Sure. One, regardless of what the health condition is cancer or it's a sprained ankle or whatever, I really encourage people to advocate for themselves. Get a second opinion. Don't just take, if your gut tells you there's something wrong, or if it's something more serious, a surgery, for God's sakes, get a second opinion, right? Because there are many cases where doctors are human, and there are good ones and there's bad ones, right? And there's and there's mistakes that are made, even if completely unintentional. So, with especially the more serious the situation, I encourage people to get a second opinion. I know several cancer patients that did that and ended up really, if not saving their life, prolonging their life significantly. And the second thing I'll touch on, and this is outside of the healthcare space as well, the law will always be behind technology, right? That's just how it is. Technology develops, whether it's artificial intelligence here in the healthcare space or cryptocurrency, which then needs regulation. And look what's happening in that world right now, right? Yep. And so that's on my world, but just like anyone else, I read about it. And so the law is always going to be behind technology in that adoption, right? And so when you live in a litigious society and we're a country of the rule of law, which by the way is a good thing, we have that, especially in healthcare, you are going to want to have those, call it FDA clearances for technologies that need that, or CPT codes that give the validation to say, okay, the American Medical Association, the body that gives CPT codes, gave this company a CPT code. That means they were vetted very deeply, right, by other doctors. And so it takes a certain amount of time to get adoption, and then there's who pays for it. At the end of the day, who pays for it, right? And so if there are CPT codes and reimbursement, then insurance companies will start doing that. The next generation sequencing I mentioned, for example, that the labs do, this started, being used in 2012. They didn't even get reimbursement until 2018. So people had to pay a couple of $1,000s out of pocket. Now, you have cancer, people do it. Luckily, we're not that expensive, but we will get our CPT code soon, knock on wood, and make that announcement, where then the patient doesn't have to worry about paying it, and the insurance companies will pay it. And in fact, we are talking to insurance companies as it is, because as for-profit businesses, their obligation is to take care of their covered lives, the people that they're insuring, but also to maintain costs and reduce waste so they don't have to keep raising healthcare premiums on us. Well, if we could detect breast cancer and heart disease earlier, not only will people live longer, but the insurance company won't have to spend as much money on treating them. And two, on the treatment side, if we could recommend the best combination of drugs as early as possible, they won't waste money on drugs that won't work, and also in many cases are toxic to the patient. And oftentimes cancer patients die from the toxicity of these other treatments. And so that's where we're kind of trying to hit two birds with one stone. Of course, we want to do good, but it doesn't mean you can't make money or help save money. And to drive the insurance companies to start wanting this to happen and paying for it, we have to show how they can save money or make money.
Well, thank you, Navid. One thing you didn't know is that actually I am an insurer.
Are you really? No way.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 28 years, and actually I still work for the insurance companies as I'm a VP of Medicare sales. So I work with the senior markets, but I'm deeply involved.
We need to talk after this.
we certainly will. And you're right. I mean, you were talking, and my mind is just like, this is something that an insurance company would want to have, because technically this will save, a hospitalization and all the expensive treatments that they have to, to dish out. So if something is innovative and it can do better for lesser cost, I mean, that's always welcome at the insurance space. So,
well, so you might know the statistic of the most up-to-date one better than I, but it's a huge percentage of people in the U.S. that are covered by self-insured companies that then the TPAs work with, right? The third-party administrators. So, those self-insured companies, they not only want to, bring better care for their covered lives, their employees themselves, their own families, but they need to mind the bottom line and the costs. And so if we could help those self-insured companies and work with the brokers to say, hey, this, this coverage will, deliver better care and save you money and reduce wasteful spend, then that's a win-win.
Well, thank you. And it's funny because there is always a misrepresentation about the insurance space and the insurance, and they're like the boogeyman, right? but the fact of the matter is, without insurance, it's all out of pocket, right? It's all the cost, right? With insurance, you pay some, and it's a risk share, and hopefully, it's managed well enough that you can do this. And to your point, the cost is skyrocketing back over and over. Then those costs eventually become premium, right, hikes, and then people are not happy. And that's just the cycle. But really, the insurance, can, if it gets to a point where the cost is acceptable, the premiums and everything else, there's talk about, making millions and stuff like that, and bonuses and things. We don't have to talk the politics there, but not all insurance is made equal. We talk about commercial right now, but like the government programs, which is highly regulated, and we talk about Medicare, Medicaid, and different programs that are more administered by the government. But either way, it's still there to manage, and there is the same concept of insurance, CPT codes that you mentioned. All these things have to be in place, and there's always determination. You have medical staff that does this thing, but no one. I think I can tell you the rule number one on any insurance, doesn't matter who they are. Insurance doesn't like hospitalization. They don't like emergency room because the cost is, that's where they lose their shirt, and they have insurance for insurance. We have catastrophic insurance, policies stop loss, exactly. So we have those just to prevent some of these, episodes when someone really like in the hospital for a couple of months. So it's crazy, right? So it's important, but I think innovation like yours, can, bridge that gap and hopefully make the access to better cure and test trials, instead of going crazy and just do this treatment, doesn't work, let's do the radiation, it doesn't work, let's do this. It doesn't work that way, because that's the cost that's elevated more and more. In your case, if it's done correctly the first time, and then the rest of it is history, and then you can get the right treatment off the bat, and you're good. I love what you also mentioned, something about the concept of second opinion, because you're right. You get that first news, this is bad, right? And and you're desperate, so you'll take whatever they give you. But I think that's an important piece where people have to do. I've had a whole show about someone who actually went through, the chemotherapy and everything, only to find out that they even had cancer.
Oh man, there's some horror stories about that. And in fact, at this point, it might be 15, 20 years ago, but I think there was an oncologist in Michigan that it was on, like, he's in jail now. It was on 60 Minutes, where like these people didn't even have cancer in some cases, or they were overtreated. And that's in the US, it's not anywhere else. The oncologists profit in some cases, and I'm not, that's not my space as to, their, how they're making money on this front, but they buy the drugs in bulk and they profit. They have a profit margin on administering cancer drugs to their patients.
Well, you mentioned something also earlier, is that it is a business. Healthcare is a business, and there is a cost, there is profitability, there's stuff. And sometimes that causes people to get a little excited about making a profit. And sometimes it depends of the impact is actually affecting the patients and the outcome, right? Yeah. And that's where insurance gets in. There's fraud, waste, and abuse. There's all these checks and balances. It's a little crazy, but it is real. And, it's like you can win. Everybody wants the cure. And everybody wants the solution, but then to get there, you got to go through the system. And if someone somewhere in that process is corrupted, whatever, or just kind of like excited with some extra money, they play games, and then it becomes, an effect, on people. So
get a second opinion. That's if someone walks away from this with nothing else, if you get bad news, whether it's cancer or this, again, like I said, a surgery or treatment for heart disease, get a second opinion.
Well said. And again, the second opinion for the health piece of it. Get a nutritionist, get a naturopath, get everything that you can. I've had so many different, guests that talked about different types of solutions, whether it's diet and this and the other, and they all and I've had so many people with cancer stories that actually had survived and done better, with different treatments that were completely off the grid, right? And they were able to secure a healthier life, eventually. And again, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry to interrupt. I just want to say, oncologists are truly special people. To be in an environment where you're giving this horrible news to a man, woman, or child, the parents of the child, and many times they do die on them. They have to build up a certain level of thick skin, right, to do what they do.
Hats off to them, man.
And so they are truly special people. And so when I say get a second opinion, it's not to by any means I just want to be clear to say like the doctors are bad or oncologists are bad. Absolutely not. But everyone is human. Get a second opinion. There's technologies that are out that not everyone is aware of yet. And so, whether it's someone I know that, is getting treated in San Diego, but, paid $1,500 to have an oncologist at Stanford, just give them just look at it and say, hey, would you give the same treatment? And to have them say yes, that peace of mind, like, okay. Or in the case of my business partner, where the oncologist he was first referred to said, come back next week, basically, and we're going to start you on this chemotherapy, even though you'll probably be dead in 4 years, is basically the message he got. He didn't really like the sound of that. And that's where he did his homework and found Dr. Kurzrock at Moore's Cancer Center. And he's cancer-free. And it was not the treatment that he was initially going to be given.
Well, first of all, I appreciate what you said, and thank you so much for making that clear. I mean, first of all, I believe all doctors, they are miraculous people and they help people and save lives. And to your point, the oncologists are on the worst part of it because they have to. You're an oncologist. You're talking cancer every day.
Yeah, like you don't want to ever have to see one, right?
That's the business, right? And
right.
Unfortunately, it's something that they have to deal with day in, day out. And the outcomes are, 50-50 shot at best. And, people, so there's always that they're prepared to those, and it's tough. And again, when you said something about second opinion, I think in general, people just have the ability to actually learn different options that they have before they make. And traditionally, cancer has been very expensive. The thought of having that disease, sometimes people, they can literally cure or at least save themselves by early on, but they can't afford to go through the process initially, and then it's too late. And like, for example, in New York, we are Sloan Kettering is like one of the biggest institutions.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But for the most part, they don't take private insurance, so it's self-pay, and a lot of people can't afford the top-notch treatment or the technology and the stuff they have there. So just to give an example, and that's exactly across the nation. That's in the U.S. Now we don't even want to talk overseas and in other parts of the world where the medicine is much lesser in a lot of parts, right? So it's difficult for people to have access. But what I love about your concept and your company is that you are literally the next generation. I mean, that's really what it is.
And we can get to the masses and help people regardless of their, the economic class, because it isn't that expensive. We're not, what we do, again, it's like we're not taking the cancer biopsy. We don't have the expenses of a lab. There's already companies that do that. So what they do is our input. Now, of course, if someone is in Bangladesh, or Zimbabwe or somewhere that is harder to get that care to begin with, that's not, those are other problems, right? And
right.
That's where there's a lot of great work being done by nonprofits and the World Bank, I know, and others to these mobile centers to go into rural communities across the world to, do blood work, prostate exams on men, mobile mammogram centers for women, because again, that detection is of course the first thing. And so it's not something we're going to solve overnight, but look, I mean, what else is there that is worth fighting for and getting up for every day than to, help yourself and others live longer?
Well, health is wealth, right? And if you can continue healthy, there's no money in the world can make a difference. I mean, yeah, you can pay and get your services, but at the end of the day, your health is over. So you got to do whatever it takes to do it. People will sell their homes to find a solution to cure whatever, to find a medicine. But so that takes me to my next question. So the steps, basically, someone gets diagnosed, right? Do they have, let's say, how do they get the data to you? I mean, do they have to connect with you, or the doctor will refer them to you, and then basically you will give them a prescription, to a lab to do the sequencing, and then you get the results?
Great question. So patient, gets that horrible news, they have cancer, right? And however they found it. And of course, what do people do when they have conditions? They get on Google, they search, right? They Google, different cancers and treatments. And so people are finding us. I mean, we had a patient from Poland a couple of weeks ago that found us, and we were able to CureMatch him, which is pretty cool, by the way. I use the company name as a verb because doctors are saying, did you CureMatch the patient? And so He already had his next generation sequencing done, so it was very fast. So if a patient finds out they have cancer, they should make sure that they should ask the doctor about getting an NGS panel, a next generation sequencing panel. And so the doctor will then, and a lot of them are increasingly, the majority are doing this anyway, but just make sure they do it, right? Get that biopsy sequenced. That takes 2 to 3 weeks by these labs. And then that's what we need as our input. So then the patient, the doctor sends that to us by either PDF, or the doctor's office can enter it on our private site, enter the information off the PDF. And again, that's why I say we can help patients anywhere in the world, because it doesn't matter, where they access the internet. We just need them to enter it, or even just email it to us if it's harder for them to enter, depending on where they're at. And then once we have that information, we will turn that around in 2 to 3 business days. So we're much faster than the lab part. Now, the cost of it, who pays? That right now it is out of pocket. The patient pays, or some labs are baking it into their costs. So we have labs that are already doing the sequencing, and they'll offer that to, do you want to pay, extra to get CureMatched? And we then do that volume-based pricing depending on, how many, cases are getting CureMatched by that lab. And so once the CPT code kicks in, of course, then, insurance will ultimately pick up these costs. But right now, our costs are, $1,500 a patient. That said, we actually have a gift of CureMatch campaign going here during the holidays. If anyone wants to buy CureMatch report for a loved one, it's $900, I think, is where we had it. And I'll also note, we're a small company, but where we can make an impact, we want to. And so for any child with cancer, any pediatric cancer, we are zero cost. We are complimentary. So if God forbid anyone's child has cancer, or they know someone, we will CureMatch them at no cost.
Are you working with like St. Jude's Hospital or something as well, or?
We'd love to work with them. They're obviously an incredible organization and a big organization. And so I know our team is, working to lock arms with them. But no, right now we're not working with them specifically.
Okay. No, just curious. But the idea that you actually provide this for children for free at no cost. Yeah. I mean, I don't like to use the word free, but at no cost. There's always a cost.
We say complimentary, right? And the reason we did that, a couple of years ago, we had a case where the parents couldn't afford the $1,500, and we just couldn't live with ourselves to not help them, right? And so, fortunately, there aren't that many kids with cancer, but the cases that there are have come. We said, let's, we're not here to make money off this. Let's help them. If of course the volume is much higher, we're not a huge company. It's, that's a different situation. But to date, we are 100% complimentary to CureMatch any child with cancer.
Now, thank you for that. Once the CureMatch is done and there's a formulation, what's the next step?
Yes. Thanks for getting me back on track there.
No, it's all good.
So once we CureMatch them, so we literally produce our report. It's like 29, 30 page report. And then the doctor gets that. The patient gets it too, but it's Greek to them, right? They need a doctor to interpret it for them. And so now it's a decision support tool. And the doctor uses that on top of all the other information they have on the patient. Do they have a family history? Are they obese? Do they drink? Do they smoke? There are other health issues. So the doctor takes all that in addition to the CureMatch report to ultimately decide what treatment to give the patient. So we are another tool in the toolbox for the doctor to use in deciding what treatment to give. And we've had some incredibly prominent doctors. If you look on our CureMatch.com website, Dr. John Link, for example, Link, John Link. He's one of the world's top breast cancer oncologists, and he said we have changed his therapy decisions. And so again, incredible doctor. But no human can process 4.5 million combinations, and so that's what we've done. And he's obviously, as he says, we've changed his therapy decisions in some cases.
I think we'll get an error message. If
What's
you
that?
did, I said we'll get an error message to combine all that stuff in our mind. You're not going to be able to come up with a number. It's like those
Oh,
calculators
right.
where
Yeah.
you get an
It
E.
just it's impossible, and that's where technology is there to empower us to deliver better care. It's not here to replace the human. In fact, I think there's a lot of areas where AI will replace humans, whether it's driverless cars or trucks or Ubers or taxis. And there are jobs that will absolutely be lost. But it'll bring other efficiencies, and it'll bring jobs that we don't even think about right now, right? But in the healthcare world, it's we have such a shortage of doctors and nurses and others in the field. It's there to empower those in the healthcare industry, and the fact is, a human doesn't want a robot or an AI to tell them they have cancer. They want another human
touch.
put their arm over their shoulders and say, we got this. We're going to do everything we can to help you, and this is the plan.
Well, so Navid, you give the report, but technically the report is already kind of, it has a juice in there, has already the magic formula. This is like the best potential treatment based on the data that we have. So the doctor now just has to match basically their view of whatever their biopsies and all the things that they've done, and then combine that, and then ultimately they pretty much given some sort of a prognosis and a treatment already.
Yeah, no, I mean that's in fact you mentioned something that I neglected to mention, so thank you, Hurricane. We could also cure match the doctor's combination. So the doctor could say, hey, I'm thinking of giving this combination, and we could run that through our system and come back and score it and rank it against other treatments. So we could also do that. And we could also say, whatever you do, don't give this combination. This combination will have a bad side effect. But then the next part after that, let's say the doctor, we cure match the patient, we get that report to the doctor, he or she's like, yep, this makes sense. At the end of the day, those drugs have to be paid for by insurance, right? The reimbursement has to be there. So there are cases where that's not a problem. And there are cases where insurance companies are asking for, well, tell us why we should pay for this, because Merck's Keytruda is supposed to be for lung cancer, not stomach cancer, right?
Step therapy and did all that other
right.
stuff.
And I say Merck's Keytruda, by the way, because it's a fantastic drug that initially was meant just for lung cancer when it got FDA cleared. But we actually ended up finding out early on, and we saw it earlier, and now others know this too, and it's being used for other treatments. But we had a stomach cancer patient that we cure matched, and it came back, and Merck's Keytruda was one of the 3 drugs we recommended. And his oncologist said, I would have never thought of that, because it was stomach cancer, not lung cancer. And so that's where we come in to say, look, based on the science, this is not throwing darts. This is based on this patient's, the molecular profile of the cancer patient and the cancer patient's cancer, and the drugs available, and the how they interact with each other. It's truly based on that level of accuracy and detail that our report functions on. And so it's where I said, law is always going to be behind technology, and the insurance companies ultimately, I think, are going to drive the adoption the farthest of our technology. In fact, we had someone from your world, it was a stop loss insurance industry executive that said this should be a medical necessity. And that's, of course, the industry language for saying we're not going to pay for these drugs unless it's a medical necessity and you've cure matched the patient, right? And so that's where we want to drive this, is that every patient, they get cancer, unfortunately, should get sequencing done by a lab. It could be any lab, but at least they get that done. And then some level of combination therapies are recommended. Of course, ours being the superior one. But there are others that recommend some combinations as well, as to why that's being recommended.
I actually would agree. I mean, you're almost becoming, you are the vetting, tool. I mean, it's, these are, what does CureMatch say? It's like if CureMatch says this is the combo, well, you're telling me I need this combo, right? This is not this is probably a better, tool, a better solution, and definitely better outcome. Therefore, we would like to go there. This will be something that, for example, for redeterminations or even determination for authorizations, things like that, this could be
100%.
used as there too. I mean, and now this is specifically through you guys, or this is maybe like a software that health insurance can also acquire? I mean, I'm not sure if that's even in the game, but
it's through us right now. And so we could work with an insurance company, for example, on a per member per month model to say, we will offer this to all your covered lives.
Got it.
And the more patients that are covered, the lower the cost is per member per month, right? Right now it's paid for, per patient that's done, or per case. But ultimately, that's where I say, I want us to be successful, not based on the number of patients we CureMatch, but based on the number of lives we cover.
Listen, and I think that's the access too that will make a big difference. So I think that's the best piece on the CureMatch. Now, the CureMetrix, just to clarify, I think it's a different aspect of it, right?
Yes.
So if you don't mind, can we just? I know you said it's 100% women driven.
Yeah.
Right? But what's the main differentiator in terms of that, other than just the specialty?
So with CureMetrix, again, it's a diagnostic. It's detecting, right? It's software. We're not hardware. We could be. It doesn't matter if the hospital or imaging center has a GE machine or a Hologic machine. We could go on any one of those machines, and we're 100% cloud-based. So we could process 10 million mammograms right now, or 10,000, right? And so that's the beauty of what we do, where we came at this with 100% software approach, whereas a lot of these legacy companies are not cloud-based. And so we're very scalable in that regard. There already is, on the breast cancer side, the CPT code is already there. The CM angio, not yet. And because it's a diagnostic, we have to get FDA cleared first before we can legally sell it. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference, right? Between, CureMatch is not a diagnostic, so it's not, we can sell it now, just, people have to pay for it until there's a CPT code. On the CureMetrix side, because it's a diagnostic, we can't legally sell it until we have FDA clearance. Now, we do have one clearance on one of our breast cancer products, CM Triage. In fact, it was the first of its kind, in 99% accuracy. And we have a couple others, not to bore your listeners on it, but CureMetrix.com kind of list all this. It's all public. And then on the CM angio, of course, the heart disease detection, it works now, but we have to get the FDA clearance before we can then sell it. And then ultimately, it's going to be a software, a healthcare, IT software that imaging centers and hospitals would buy. And radiologists are the ones that use it, right? So when this, of course, is cleared, again, that's where I always say advocate for your own care. And patients can ask, "Are you using CureMetrix technology? I want to, and if not, why not? What are you using? What's the difference?" Ask the questions. So there are other imaging companies that offer, use some elements of AI to detect breast cancer, and I would argue that we're at the top of the list there, and the results speak for themselves. But no one else does what we do on the heart disease detection.
So essentially, CureMetrix, once it's live and it's out there, it will basically be the solution where people actually get the diagnosis, and then that can feed into your CureMatch concept, and then, right? I mean, I'm getting that story straight.
Yeah, specific to breast cancer. Yeah, yes. It feeds into then. So yeah, so you could say that there could be a woman who goes into an imaging center and goes in for her annual mammogram. They have CureMetrix technology there, and it's used. Breast cancer is detected, and then the oncologist, sends that, does an NGS panel, a sequencing from a lab, and then gets that to us at CureMatch, and we then produce our report that says, based on this patient's cancer, here's the best combination. So there is that handoff on the breast cancer side.
Very nice. But again, I know we've talked so much about the breast cancer, but or the cancer in general, but the heart disease is just as important as big, and that's something that you're also fighting and working on.
Yeah, I mean that's again, not to take anything away from breast cancer, but heart disease is definitely the largest cause of mortality there. And so if we can help detect women that are walking, whether it's, the streets of New York or LA or India or Germany or anywhere in the world, and they could be walking heart attacks and not know it. And that's where we can go in and off their existing mammogram. They don't even have to go in for a new mammogram. We could look at retrospectively at the one they did last year, the year before.
Well, that's awesome news. I mean, for folks watching and listening, I mean, if you're going to do that, I mean, now this is just to be clear. So any mammogram doesn't matter. They just have to reach out to you guys, or like maybe they send you the results.
Well,
how would that work?
It has to, right now, again, we have to get it FDA cleared. And so,
Okay.
you know, knock on wood, that's going to happen here in 2023, around the corner. And then once it's cleared, then yeah, we have to, because the premise is, again, we're a technology company. We're not a medical practice. That's
Sure.
a totally different business. So we can't practice medicine.
Mhm.
And so that's where, patients can reach out to us, of course, and say, you know, keep us updated, or how can I get to a doctor that could then use CureMetrix technology to detect my breast cancer. And so then, you know, we could direct them to the right location that has our technology in place.
Well, at least that's a possibility. Today, they can reach
Yes.
out to you, and you can guide them to whatever is available in their vicinity. Hopefully, they can get, you know, some close, you know, I guess, vision of what's going on within their heart. And I mean, to your point, they already did the work and the pain. Might as well just get the double, you know, results.
Yeah, the double benefit. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
All right. Well, Navid, I mean, I think we've exceeded the hour. Of, you know, we've covered a lot, and you know, I think you guys are doing a terrific thing, and I love when technology is in place, because I think, you know, technology makes a difference today in healthcare. You know, specifically, technology is a big deal, right? I mean, it's changed the way we do things, right, in healthcare, and you know, it's saved lives, you know, to date, and it has a premise to do a lot more. And I think with AI and the way you're doing this, specifically in this area of cancer and heart disease, I think you guys are going to you're the innovators here, and we look forward to your success. And hopefully we'll be seeing you all over the place, and you know, your technology and your services will be available to all the insurance. And to your point, becomes the process. You want to get, you know, cleared, you need to go through CureMatch. That would be a perfect thing for oncology. So we, you know, I personally, I can't say I endorse you, because there's nothing to endorse you, but I can say I really, you know, admire the work, and I wish that, you know, you guys can, you know, do more and more and help a lot more people worldwide. And why not? You know, the beauty of it, you're saving lives. So
no, thank you for the kind words there, Hurricane, and of course helping get the word out. That's what we're trying to do, is let as many people know about what we're doing. And again, they can go to AIMedGlobal.com, which then drives to CureMetrix or CureMatch, or if they're interested in either one, just go to the specific website, CureMatch.com or CureMetrix.com, and we'd be happy to, of course, talk to anyone further on this.
Well, Navid, thank you so much. I think, you know, we're going to do just that, and the show is going to be airing live across, you know, all the globe, and hopefully we'll reach out to the right people, and hopefully, whether they are just, you know, folks that are interested, or in the medical, the healthcare system, I think it's perfect, you know, where they can learn about this and maybe be ahead of the game in aligning with you guys. So as you guys progress, that service can be available to the people, and hopefully at very minimum cost. So I think that's important. So Navid, thank you so much for being with us today and for the valuable insights here. I mean, it's great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Hurricane. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. And folks, thank you for being with us and watching and listening in. I hope this show, you know, is really making a difference, and hopefully is a resource for you folks, and for anyone out there. You know, if you think someone can benefit from it, please share with them. And that being said, I'm Hurricane H. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic. Bye for now.